Okay. Hey, I want to welcome everyone to our board meeting, board of directors for Menlo Park Protection District on January 21st, 2025. Roll call, Michelle.
Director Bernstein,
Present.
Director Bloom,
Here.
Director Jones,
Here.
Director Crawley, present, Director Solano.
Here. Everyone's counted for. You want to stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we start our meeting, we get into the public comments. We maybe just take a moment of silence for people that's in Southern California, as well as the firefighters who are battling, I assume people battling the blaze down in Altadena and Palisade and some of the others. So it's a moment. Thank you. Do we have any public comment, Michelle?
We do not.
No public comment? Moving right into our report, and the first report that we have advisory.
Thank you, Director Jones, member of the board. To any members that might be listening in, I'm happy to share with you my first update of 2025. Starting at the top list, just as a standing item, Station 1 design. It's actually not any update from our December meeting, not a lot is going on. I look forward to providing you with a written update once we have additional things to report out. Recruitment and promotions, the administrative specialist position, excuse me, has been filled by Shin Young Oh, who started work with us last Thursday. Mechanic recruitment is ongoing. Fire captain, promotional recruitment closed this past week with 7 applicants. So we're starting on the internal promotional process on that. Other items to talk about, a little update on our community engagement unit. Kind of a couple cool things going on here. That we have the usual things that we've been involved in with our CPR, Stop Bleed, Red Cross Ready, community. We held a new CERT class. We held a new class for CERT members that related to traffic control and winter preparedness. Part of that is just in anticipation for well, I don't want to hope for winter storms like we had. It would be great if we had some rain, but as we've seen in the past, there have been needs related to our winter storms, related to traffic control, sandbagging, things like this. We had partners. We had the Menlo Park Police Department partner with us on that. Sergeant Alan Swanson was helping us on the traffic control segment. So it's another new skill for our CERT members that are trained to assist with our community, which is great. We did fire extinguisher training for employees at a local business called Exponent. We had a Boy Scout neighborhood event, which we attended in Menlo Park for the Boy Scouts and their families. We had 70 people in total, taught hands-only CPR, taught them how to use an AED and how to use fire extinguishers. Good. The CERT group assisted us with our California Task Force 3 deployment. We had 5 or 6 members there that were helping to check in our folks as they came in to get their gear and go through their medical stuff. Nice way to engage our volunteers. We conducted 6 station tours and had 6 tours and school presentations. We also have now available on our website virtual tours of Fire Station 4. So if the community wants to see what Fire Station 4 looks like inside, or what Engine 6 and Truck 4 look like, they can go in and explore in the cabinets, see what the tools and equipment are. So, kind of trying to speak to our younger community and maybe even some of our other folks that are just interested in taking a tour without actually having to physically visit. Some other things here. We have the year-end fire response analysis report attached. Just of note, I was looking at our numbers here. We had a slight decrease in year-over-year calls, down by about 4.8% from 2023 to 2024. No specific reason for that, just we always have general fluctuations from year to year in calls. The Coffee with a Fire Chief, a new program that I started. I go out every Wednesday with Chief McDonald to a fire station with the intent just to sit down at the kitchen table and chat about just anything that the crews want to hear. You know, just a nice way for the engine companies to connect with leadership, rumor control. We've done 4 visits so far. And the intent is to do it from every Wednesday until the end of time. You know, kind of like painting the Golden Gate Bridge, you know, once you get through all the stations and all the ships, you just start over again. But it's a really nice way to connect with our folks, you know, besides the Zoom meetings that I've been doing. So that's been really good and really well received. Deployments. As you know, we had the fires down south. We typically we'll deploy 2 engines. Stretching to a 3rd is unusual, but the circumstances were incredibly unusual down there. We started out by sending engine 104 down, followed up by 101, and then engine 504, all on. First 2 were on strike teams, meaning it's 5 engines, the same resource, all of our Type 1 engines. 504 was sent down on something that they call a task force. And that can be not necessarily 5. It can be made up of different types of equipment. So a Type 1, a Type 3, this was a Type 5 engine that we sent down. But you know, as you get kind of to the bottom of the barrel and you know the calls for help keep coming out, we squeeze out what we can. So the first two engines went out with 4 personnel on them, the 3rd one went with 3. And all were put to use, and those engines are all back. They all went down to the Palisades fire also. Task Force 3 was also deployed down initially to the Altadena fire, was pretty quickly reassigned to the Palisades fire. The primary purpose of the task force deployment in situations like this, there's some use of them related to structural integrity and making sure the scene's safe, but primarily the HRD or the human remains dogs are put to use trying to go through the communities and search all the structures and bring some kind of closure to the community on folks that are missing. So they finished up their searches yesterday. They are waiting to be demobilized and come on back. I actually flew down on Sunday to LA specifically to go visit our team, look and see what I had never been. I had seen them set up their camps here locally, but to actually go down and see it in person and visit with the team and the crews was just a good opportunity for me, seeing as how it was relatively close. And that also my presence there wasn't taxing any resources like we might see if I tried to visit a hurricane where there's limited power, hotel rooms, etc. So it was a nice visit with them, really impressive what our teams do. They had an entire Air Force station, not at the regular base camp, but they had a camp set up really just all for the task forces, not just FEMA Type 1 task forces, but also Cal OES regional task forces were there. We were paired up with 2, I think one for Fresno and one for Bakersfield with our team. And we partnered with them to go out and search structures. But yeah, really, really interesting and fascinating the amount of technology that is down there, the level of expertise of our folks that practice this. So it was a good visit. I limited my drive just along PCH, which was absolutely devastated. I didn't head up into any of the communities, but still just the magnitude of the destruction was really just powerful and unfortunate. Along those lines, we've actually had some outreach from a number of community groups and from some of our local council members, specifically some folks from Atherton have reached out to us just wanting to engage in some conversations about what the community can do to be prepared. Initially, I was reached out to by the city manager. I know Director Bloom was reached out to as the liaison. We've had some initial conversations about what we're doing. One of the things is that through our Fire Prevention Bureau and our risk reduction folks, our plan is to put out a really simple, clear, 2-page brochure to our communities that's branded with our logo and information to share with them the things that they can do in preparation for any incident like this. Will specifically be wildfire related, but things they can do to harden their homes. And then we can work also proactively with any of our cities that are interested in doing things within their jurisdictions to help with whatever issues might be relevant for them. So that will be an ongoing conversation with them. Like I said, the public's interest is incredibly heightened right now as a result of those fires. New development update. This is probably, I will put this on there anytime something's kind of brewing within our jurisdictions. This one happens to be related to the city of Menlo Park and the conversations that they've been having related to 3 of their parking lots in the downtown area and declaring them surplus property and potentially building moderate to low income housing there. Just know that for us, I mean, it was obviously a 4-hour long council meeting just related to public input last, I think it was Tuesday night. And the city council ultimately moved forward with, I think, a request, an RFP for potentially that site. I don't know if what they decided. There was, lots of, I watched about 2 hours of it online. Lots of information was coming out, some members of the community in support, some against, some recommending they push the housing over to the Civic Center. Just know this, it has not come before the fire district for any kind of review yet. What needs to happen is an RFP would come forward from a developer. There would have to be some kind of awarding of that and a plan submission to us. That's when the fire district would get involved. And from our perspective, I will let you know, I already chatted with Lenny, our plans reviewer, so you can just have a heads up when this actually ends up on the table. And again, our responsibilities will be to ensure same things we have with every development: access, water, and when I say access, it's for people getting in and out of there, and especially in those areas for our aerial apparatus to have access to the roof with some of the challenges related to utility poles, etc. And then if when there's a CEQA document that comes out, we'll have an opportunity to also weigh in on the impacts to the services on the district, right? So it's traffic, if it's an addition of a lot of additional people or special needs population, we can address that. So I will share with the board when that comes to our desks. The Fire Scope Board of Directors meeting. Interesting, I was supposed to be attending this meeting tomorrow and Thursday. The Fire Scope Board was created back in the 1970s by Governor Earl Warren after the Bel Air fire. And it was done because of the lack of our interoperability, our ability to integrate and communicate with neighboring jurisdictions on common radio frequencies with a common language. And a result of that meeting back in the 1970s was that the Incident Command System was created by the Fire Scope Board. ICS is used by fire and law and OES and throughout the United States and internationally now. This same board is looking at what just happened with fires down in LA and trying to ensure we can meet with all of the players. To talk about what do we do now? It's not that we need a new incident command system, but how do we deal with these catastrophic fires that move so quickly and try and look at another way to proactively address fires like this. So the primary reason why it was postponed is because obviously the LA City and LA County Fire Chiefs, who both sit on this board, have their hands pretty full right now. And so I think the plan is to postpone it for 2 weeks, and then for us to meet we had a full agenda already, but they're gonna push all of the meat and potatoes in the regular agenda to day one, which is half day, and spend a full day on just trying to address and brainstorm some ideas related to how we can do business differently and better. It was interesting, they had tried to entertain the idea of us moving to a closed session so we could just really speak frankly and in a closed meeting. They don't deal with the Brown Act here. This is a state committee, and so I forget what the name of the similar meeting, Bagley King. Yes, that would not allow us to have any kind of closed session. So we will do it in open public session, and the president or the board chair of the Fire Board said, yeah, bring your coffee and your thick skin, because we are just going to, roll up our sleeves and get to it. So, no hurt feelings. We just have to figure out a way to fix things. So that'll be an interesting meeting. Happy to share with you what happens after our meeting. That should be in 2 weeks. We also had, as we were deploying our resources down south, we were having a San Mateo County Chiefs offsite meeting in Monterey. We had a number of items. We do this every year. It's kind of a planning meeting, kind of taking a look back at what we've done, what we want to accomplish, and setting some goals for the next year. Some of the highlights of our meeting that we talked about, dispatch services was a big discussion. Some conversations about, we've had a battalion chief that has been assigned to county DEM. Sounds like that position is going away as they're transitioning. They don't want to fund it anymore. I'm not sure it's had a significant amount of value for us. Talked a little bit about some paramedic programs that CSM are having, some goals for next year. We had talked about moving AMR, ambulance provider, onto our dispatch channels. Currently, fire and EMS are dispatched separately and placed on different frequencies, and that's not usual or normal, and it doesn't allow for seamless operations. And so we're going to try and move forward and see if we can't get us all on the same frequency when we initially get dispatched. It'd be good. And if we get AMR on scene first and they give an on-scene report, that would be great. And we'll teach them a little bit about radio etiquette, and so that our frequencies aren't clogged with a lot of chit chat. But I think that will be a good move for us to move in that direction. We also had on December 19th a demonstration with the Quake technology. I sat down before the demonstration with the CEO and founder of Quake and was fascinated. I really hadn't spent a lot of time looking at the product. This is something that Harold, and I should say Chief Schapelhoman and Chief Calvert and Captain Vidosh have been involved in from the early inception of the product. And I don't know how many different iterations of the product they have gone through. It feels like they're up to the 12th version of it. It is amazing what they have done, and the amount of technology that is packed into these devices that basically they're integrated into your fire helmet. And it's a pretty high capacity computer that's in the back of your helmet along with a battery and a flip down screen that allows you, in conjunction with a number of technologies, infrared, I don't even know what else it is, there's sonar, some of it's AI, that you can look into any environment and see heat, you can see bodies, you can see architectural members, doorways, openings in the floor. You know, and this is in an environment where, you know, with a flashlight in your eyes, you can't see a thing. So it really has the potential to be a game changer in our environment, and it also has the potential, there's some safety items that are associated with this, where it will track you as you go in. And there's a button you can push in, it will show you the way out. So, you know, if we're in a large warehouse and we get, you know, disoriented, you can follow blue arrows that will take you right back to the way you came in. It will show you on there. It has the potential ability to track our firefighters and send it back to our tablet command to show exactly where they are. Not even on the flat plane, but on the up and down axis too, that has been, you know, one of those things that it has been up to now, unattainable. So really excited. We will be one of the first departments in the country to have access to the product and to use it. Because of our involvement from the beginning and because of the board's also support in, you know, we have already paid for our units and we've been waiting quite a few years for these to come to fruition. And they finally are here. So, and because of the board's foresight in funding that, we're getting these units at an incredible discount to what their current cost is. The technology is amazing. They have large contracts from the Department of Homeland Security and fire departments throughout the United States. So really excited for that to come. We had quite a bit of media out there also on the 19th. It was a pretty cool event. Yes.
Is it okay for ask questions?
Sure. Yeah, how about it?
I just want to ask, is there a way that we can schedule a demo so we can see the stuff
Yeah,
in action?
yeah. I will get that once we actually have one of the users.
No, that's
in
fine,
hand.
yeah, I'd like to, is it 802.11, you know, certain things, you know, wireless, different types of imaging.
Yeah, it is.
I'd be interested.
I don't even know
in
what all the
using
technology is, but it is, yeah,
Oh, great.
it's way above my pay grade.
I noticed that, I think it was back in 2020 when it came out and
Exactly.
I did a flight demonstration with some of the boardrooms. I know I was there and
I was there, I think it was actually from
2019.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
They put the smoke in and they had, you know, everything was dark in the room and that was the beginning of it.
And the technology in the last 5 years is just, even better.
Sure.
So exponentially better. And, it doesn't look like anything that was built in somebody's garage. It looks like a complete integrated product that looks like it's from a futuristic movie, you know, the way it is, so.
But even
It's pretty
before
cool.
it got to the 2019 demo, this had been worked on before. This has been going on for probably 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So
One
thanks for
employee,
doing,
used to work here, went there and started working.
yeah.
He was out there at the
Yeah.
site, yeah.
Michael.
Mhm. The two outstanding staff reports that are still on there, we'll start putting some of these on the agenda in the next few months, are the internal controls policy as well as, excuse me, the electrification of fire service vehicles. And then incidents that we had locally, we had a structure fire on December 29th in North Fair Oaks. This was initially on scene, quite a bit of heavy smoke coming out. Turned out it was an oven fire. Where they got a quick knockdown on it and extended a little bit into the kitchen cabinets and walls. So that was good. The other one on December 29th was really, when we first got there, it didn't appear to be a significant fire. It had started in a garage. This is on Minalto in East Palo Alto. The garage was occupied, you know, as a living area. The two occupants had extinguished the fire and in the process burned themselves and both ended up going to the hospital with burn injuries. And that is it for my first chief's report of 2025.
Anybody have any questions?
I wanted to ask you, just because I didn't understand what the issues might be. The fire spoke board of directors meeting where they want to put stuff in closed session. I'm not looking for confidential information, but I'm trying to understand what would trigger wanting a closed session there?
To be able to have honest conversations about how things didn't go well. I mean, the public scrutiny on the fires right now, I mean, if you've watched any of the news reports, it is relentless. So it makes it really difficult to have an honest conversation amongst fire chiefs about, some of the things that went wrong when there's such incredible scrutiny on the whole thing. So makes it difficult to have a really honest conversation to try and figure out solutions, when you have.
And these would be the Los Angeles fire
Right,
chiefs, right?
exactly.
And is it possible that they're discussing it, it would actually lead to lawsuits or contribute to information lawsuits?
I would imagine, sure, any of that would be available, if somebody wanted to sue any of the agencies for some kind of negligence or whatever. And I suppose it could potentially even put somebody's jobs at risk. So.
Okay.
Well, since we have a new board president, do you want us to ask questions involving this report at the end so that she can go through the whole thing? Or do you want us to answer questions during the individual sections?
I think my preference, when I hear from the other board meetings, my preference is to have the chief to finish his report.
Okay, great.
And make notation of it, like me, that memory loss, so that's why I got pen in hand and jot down the questions.
All right.
How's the other
Thank you.
people go with us?
I prefer that.
Is that okay with you?
Sure, of course, me.
Any other questions? Who's want to add? There was one thing I want to kind of follow up with you, Chief, on, and you mentioned about the work with the community on wildfire. I assume that I was on a call this afternoon that the county had at 4 o'clock. We stayed the whole time, and it seemed like it was really, they began to, I don't know all of those on the call, I was, and it was talking about the same thing you just mentioned about how to fortify your environment from fire. And one of the things that was someone brought up was quite interesting to me, and that was I know in our community we have a lot of landlords, and oftentimes they just let things just go, weeds all the place and stuff everywhere. I think in East Palo Alto, I know that I've been talking with some people on Monday at the Kings event that I participated in, that people are as I was strong heightened awareness for that. And even many people think, oh, we want to have the Bay Area, it's not dry, but somehow they're missing the connection between climate change, the change in the climate and the seasons are changing, and as well as how it's just staying dry longer. So and what I'm saying is that I encourage that if you can figure out a way to make that kind of taking the show on the road to all the communities, not only to, I think you said we talked to Brandon and Atherton, but I know in East Palo Alto, and I see,
We're very interested in hosting some community town halls. Whether that, they're district sponsored, we're happy to partner with cities in those things. We're looking at, actually, in addition to this brochure, putting some videos on our website so people can actually see, as we take them around a sample house of how they can harden their home. And, but, so yes, I think, the time is right. And even when you look at issues we had in the 2700 Middlefield fire, which is not a wildland urban interface fire. Yeah, but we had significant threat to our community because of the winds and the embers from, a building under construction. Right, and that, had the potential to significantly impact the neighborhood, just adjacent to that property. So it can happen anywhere, and you can have an urban conflagration like we witnessed in Pacific Palisades. It started as a brush fire and very quickly was an urban conflagration. And the majority of the homes that burned down weren't necessarily in and amongst the brush. But it's ornamental vegetation, it's your lawn furniture, it's your attic vents, it's so many different things. Some of which can be very easily and inexpensively addressed.
Well, let me know, I'm being very, I'm in place on that. Let's see.
Robert,
So,
can I ask one more thing?
absolutely.
Actually, there's a comment, I was gonna make it at the end during director's comments, but it's relevant to what we're talking about. I'm not sure why we necessarily have to wait until we receive stuff from the city of Menlo Park regarding these 3 parking lots. And I'm saying that because we've always had these reports that the downtown buildings in Menlo Park are very, very poorly protected. Almost none of them have fire sprinklers. And there's talk that if there was ever a fire in one of them and there was a little bit of wind, the entire downtown could be wiped out. And I'm saying that because this idea of, it seems to me a little too passive that we're gonna just wait until we see something. It seems to me that it might help the people that are doing the planning to know what some of the vulnerabilities are and things like that. So anyway,
But it would be interesting to see, and we had talked about having at some point in time a discussion with the board about some of these things. Regardless of what the structure is that's built there, it will be 100% sprinkler. That's a mandatory requirement, but
the new one, but the old ones are not.
right, we can't
Yeah.
require
That's-
that a city or build, that owners go and retroactively retrofit their things, so. Yeah,
I mean, it's not a new issue, so I brought it up with the Willow Road project too. The Sunset Building, so we probably should have a conversation about that.
I think that
It's
if
not just
insurance
one
companies that
project.
get wind of this might require certain things. All I'm saying to you is the information we have could benefit other people that are planning some of this. And to wait to the last minute and then do something, seems to me it's potentially a little bit too late to receive that information. In other words, maybe at some point we should put out a fact-finding thing or the district's review of the downtown situation or something like that, just as a guide for the people that are doing the planning.
Yeah, I just wanted to come back to the thing you mentioned, Robert, about the discussions going on with Atherton in response to the LA fires. Everything Chief and I've talked about is multi-city, doing it across the district, issues being a little different. I want to make sure, Chief, you take note of the one comment he made though, which is the targeting the landlords. Because we kind of envision one for the kind of community focused and another set of guidelines to the cities themselves to say, hey, here's the kinds of things you could do with your landscape restrictions, your building restrictions, and so forth. And I think you bring up a really good point for probably Menlo Park and East Palo Alto both, which
Oh,
is,
unincorporated.
and unincorporated, which is not an Atherton issue to the most part, which is the landlord. I think we should make sure that we target the multi-housing apartment buildings and stuff and talk specifically about the kinds of things they could do to improve fire safety, the speed of evacuation out of those buildings. Yeah, that was the thing with the fires down south. And Chief guy said it, these weren't really wildland fires. These were wind-driven structural fires that went from house to house to house. People had very little time to evacuate down there. Yeah, it's actually kind of a miracle in a way that there's the number of missing people is so small compared to the list of missing people and the number of, the number of remains that were recovered up in the Butte County fires. And yeah, at the time, what was that, 2 years ago, my clock's a little broken. But yeah, that work the task force does in those environments, by the way, is grueling, having done it myself in the past. It's really intense work because you're in the middle of just a massive disaster. People lost their homes, they lost their lives, and in some cases, they're not with us anymore. But it needs the guidance that we should be putting out to the city should cover everything from evacuation to access to building codes to vegetation and so forth. And I think we'll probably have to customize a little bit of it for the different cities, because different cities have different issues.
Different issues, right, exactly.
Yeah, but you brought up, I think, I just wanted to make sure we didn't lose track of it in all the other comments, that the whole landlord thing, because that hadn't triggered in my mind yet. I know, but I know it's a real issue there, and it's high density. And it's not only that it's just landlords, it's that 2-bedroom apartments might have 8 or 10 people living in them.
Exactly.
It's high occupancy, it's really high occupancy rental housing.
And the interesting thing about that,
No, you go with it.
the interesting thing about that is that each one of those maybe in 8 or 6 separate household, or, and that could be a household of one.
Right.
And they bring their own stuff.
Right.
And so now you got stuff upon stuff inside the house and outside the house. And what would that look like if there's a fire to take place? I mean, that stuff, most of the stuff just go up in a flame. So I think really understanding how to deliver that message, in like the workshops that are being done with that preparedness that's being done right now. But taking all that, the housing itself, and the clearing of wildfire, because it's the real thing in our area. We talk about it, we look at earthquake, we have something about earthquake, but wildfire is another area that's gonna be very important to try to hardscape our neighborhoods on.
Yeah, some of it will have to be ordinance driven as well, similar to the brush clearing ordinances and such, where, you know, if you have all this furniture and all this debris piled within 5 feet of your house, that needs to become a violation of a city or a fire ordinance, under which, you know, you can either clear it and you'll get noticed and have time, or we're gonna do it for you and bill you for it, and put a lien on your taxes on it.
Right.
Yeah, so I think
That'll
I
make-
think that my point, I guess, to the comment is that I think the cities in general and the county for them incorporated just need to get much more aggressive in their regulations, their building controls, the kinds of trees they allow, where the, you know, vegetation requirements on new houses, all those kinds of things. And if they really want to harden the situation and try to prevent, you know, I don't know that anything prevents this when there's 80-mile-an-hour winds.
Right.
But if you want to improve the odds of preventing it with 80-mile-an-hour winds, you've got to change some things.
Mhm.
And I think we as a fire district kind of have a responsibility to take our expertise on it.
Right.
And give them guidance about the kinds of things they should be thinking about doing.
And I like that the piece that you put together some general information so it can readily be available. Because I think part of, Virginia, I think part of what, from my understanding, people being in the East Alpha as a community, people are just not aware of what they could do if they choose to do it to make themselves safe. Like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, I moved into, bought my first house over in East Alpha, and people were putting bars all over me. Because they had a problem with theft. And people said, well, to protect myself and my valuables, we'll put bars on it. And during that period of time, those early years, people was burning up like crazy in houses because they couldn't get out, you know, and didn't understand what was their exit points out of the house, and they couldn't go out through the window. Then they came in with the bars, or the pop-out bars. Well, those things work if they don't get too rusty, and over time they get rusty, so people thought they were safe. So I guess what I'm saying without rambling is that I think those kind of things, those kind of ideas about giving people information and bringing them to the well so they can see what's possible.
I grew up in the East LA area with the same bars, and so I remember the fires and families losing their lives, stuck in those buildings. But, you know, what, the only other thing I just wanted to add is, I think what, in all the communications, it needs to be very clear, this kind of delineation of what's a wildfire and what's not a wildfire.
Right.
Because unfortunately, these are still getting characterized partly by our new president as well as forest fires. You know, lack of forest management, lack of this. These fires, Eaton Canyon, I grew up near Eaton Canyon. That's where we went on field trips. It's right at the base of the mountain. It's barely up the mountain.
Right.
And that's where it started. It jumped the road and burned the Jewish temple across the street. within the first, I think, 40 or 45 minutes of the fire.
Right.
So this wasn't really, a wildland fire, but in as much as our community members across the board continue to think about it as a wildfire, they're gonna say, well, that's an issue for Portola Valley and Woodside. That's not really our issue. We don't have the mountains here.
Right.
Kings Mountain Fire will take care of that. But in reality, this was more of a wind-driven event, and it was from one structure to the next structure to the next structure. And it got a lot into how the eaves of the homes were designed, what the roofing material was, sensible space, but it was a blowtorch
Right.
of structure fires, and it had very little to do with wildfire.
Yeah.
It could have started in two homes and been the same thing. It didn't even have to start in the interface area for the same outcome to have occurred.
Yeah, I lived down in Altadena, so we for years, so every year was like the Santa Ana winds come through and the fires at just home, when it's blowing hard at the time, it's gonna automatically take the next house.
Yeah, if you go through Altadena, it looks like Menlo Park.
Right.
It doesn't look any different. My aunt lost her home in the fire, so
Right.
I'm very familiar with that area, and you'd think you're in Menlo Park,
Yeah.
not in the mountains or the forest. Sorry.
Yeah, no, a couple of things, Chief, thanks for the update. So, with regard to our crews and the civilians who were there from Task Force 3, have we kind of provided them with, mental health resources? Because I actually started volunteering the fire district in generally back when we had Survival Lighthouse, which I also want to talk about really quickly. And some of our firefighters were just so distraught after the Oklahoma City bombing, and this is obviously not a terrorism situation, but the equally devastating and probably, probably impacting the mental health of our firefighters and our civilians, especially maybe some of our civilians there. So do we have any resources?
That's a great question, and the entire task force has gone through what's called CISM, or Critical Incident Stress Management. It's kind of a defusing, debriefing thing, so yes, does it end there? Not necessarily, but it's the good first step as they're preparing to demobilize and go back home, so yes.
And then, getting back to Survival Lighthouse, I mean, I think it's probably changed 1999, 1998, but it was a great education tool for children because it taught them how to dial 911, what to do, how to undo those bars that you were talking about. I remember we had to add the bars once people started adding bars to their homes. I thought that we had something here, it may be decommissioned now, but is there any way that we can start that kind of education for the kids? And have them have this, well, it's just like the Survival Lighthouse was like this trailer. And, it was mobile, and I think that stopped after a while, but we had an upgraded version at like the pancake breakfast, that kind of thing, community events. I mean, we could take it to National Night Out at the different, communities that had their, I know, I'm just bringing up Atherton because I know they have this huge, big community National Night Out, or there's the park in East Palo Alto that has a lot of, people who gather there to celebrate National Night Out. But I think that an educational tool, even for young kids, to just understand what to do, because I think you almost have to teach them some of that. I mean, I was the 911 operator as the volunteer, right? And so it was like, this is how you reach out to 911. I mean, obviously with cell phone doesn't work, but the point is just letting kids know so that they're also, sometimes these kids actually teach their parents too what to do and how to do things. So I don't know, I'm just thinking about resurrecting that as a tool for education.
I will get the answer to that. I know the trailer's no longer in service.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they've replaced it with something, but I'm gonna let you know at the next
Okay.
meeting what that is.
Thank you.
And you also will that, the Red Cross has a program.
Yeah.
They're decommissioning their program. They have what they call a Pedro program, it's working with younger kids.
Yeah.
And then they had one working with, the junior high school.
Yeah, middle school to high school.
Middle school, to high school.
Yeah.
And I think it's the younger one for the elementary school, they're decommissioning
Yeah.
here in our area, so there's gonna be a board here,
Yeah.
in that level of training, and I talked to the superintendent over Ravenwood, and she's excited about doing something into the district, you don't know what. I know some of the possibility being decommissioned from the cost, so there may be the opportunity, I'm not sure.
Well, so the program that I was a part of was called Survival Life House Smart, just so you know, just, I don't know if there's information on it online, but it's probably similar to what you're talking about, Mark, but anyway, just to have a starting point, that was the name of the program that I was involved with, and the Red Cross, what was the name of that program?
The Pedro, call it Pedro, it's about a penguin.
Yeah.
Pedro. It's great, I mean, anyway, we can talk about this for it's almost 47 minutes.
Thanks, Robert.
So if there's no other person, we'll just let you go on that one, move on. So, item number 2 on our agenda is the consent calendar. There's 3 items on the consent calendar. Anybody want to take anything off? Conversation, I can get approval on approving the consent calendar.
I'd
I'll
like to
move-
discuss number 2.
Rob, want to pull off number 2.
I'm just gonna be quick.
You wanna take it on?
For some odd reason, I don't have a number 2 in mind.
Oh,
I just have 1. Approval of minute.
yeah, that's number 2.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. The whole ones. Okay. Okay. Anything else you want to pull off?
I'll make a motion to approve, items 3 and 4 on the consent.
Motion been made to approve.
Second.
Item number 3 and 4, and it's been seconded by Rob. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ayes have it, we'll discuss move number 2, we'll talk about that now, so.
I just wanted to see, the discuss development projects within the district. It was an excellent report that the chief put together, and I'd like it attached to the minutes of the December 17th meeting.
The staff report?
Yeah.
Staff?
Mhm.
What is the report? I'm sorry, not on
The staff report, I'd like it attached to the minutes from the December 17th meeting.
For which item?
So, you mean the staff report for, item number 2, you want that to be attached to?
It was the discussion involving the development projects within the district. And because there's so many that are pending.
Oh, for item 10 on the minutes, right? Is that what you're talking about, Ron?
No.
Is it something that's not in the agenda packet already?
It was in last
Well,
month's agenda.
It was part of the agenda, but it wasn't included in our packet.
Well, last month, right?
Yeah,
It's
last
an
month,
agenda, a staff report on last month's agenda.
right.
And you want it attached to last month?
No, to these
Last
minutes.
month's minutes for number 2.
Okay.
But aren't all the staff reports
Online.
online? They're part of the minutes by being online. I mean, it's referencing what's online.
I mean, I think the distinction, first of all, the board can do as you wish, obviously. But the distinction is that the minutes reflect the discussion and the actions that the board took. And the packet includes the staff reports that were the basis for that discussion. If I'm understanding correctly, Director Solano, there is a report that's part of the packet that you'd like to also include as part of the minutes.
From the original packet, correct?
So,
Okay, I don't think there's a, the board can do that if it wishes. It's in the packet already.
But it's not reflected in the minutes, and it's reflected in what was surmised in the minutes. That's why I just wanted to clarify that. Because of the particular projects that are in our district, and the report's an excellent report that the chief had drawn up that talks about what the fire district can do and can't do. And I think it's important that people have that information in the future.
so what we have in the packet, if I'm correct here, we have a resolution that was part of attachment A for today. And then there's something else that you saying that we got. that
Yes,
we-
Robert, this was the staff report that accompanied the agenda item that the chief had written up for the agenda item that was discussed development projects within the district.
Okay. so
But there's staff reports for multiple agenda items, the treasurer's report. Finance does a staff report on treasurer's report, there's been staff reports on HR matters, everything else, they're all part of the packet. I don't understand why we would do this differently than we've done with all other staff reports, which is they're part of the public record in that they're in the published agendas and they're online.
So, and also making reference back to December, I think December
Minutes.
minutes, the minutes, we've got reference to, minutes for last month. That's gonna be, I mean, that's online too, I assume.
Yeah.
And so,
Entire meetings online in video format.
so I'm still trying to wrap my head around.
Let's sit through 4 hours.
What's that?
I said, let's sit through 4 hours and listen to a meeting when the staff report is a document that can be added. If the majority of the board doesn't want to add it, so be it, but our council said we could add it if we want to.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out, I understand it's not a legal issue.
No,
It's-
no, I mean-
It's, but the staff, there's a whole collection of staff reports that make up every meeting. That entire collection is available online. And so I think it's a procedural question for the board, whether we want to start down the path of, on a selective basis, including a subset of staff reports in the minutes when they're all available online.
So what is the pleasure of the board? And I concur with Gary that the minutes of there is making reference to December. And if it's making reference to December's minute, that, and all the minutes are board meetings are online. I'm still having a hard time trying to figure out how, how to move this thing.
If I might, this might be able to help you, like, it's not really a legal issue, as Director Bloom said, although it goes to an understanding what the purpose of the minutes are. And I'll just read from your board approved
Policies.
procedures, which says that the minutes, the official action of the board is represented by the minutes. So the purpose of the minutes is to reflect the actions of the board. So if you're looking for how to decide what should be in the minutes, that's maybe the only solution I can offer for you.
Can I move that we approve the board minutes as presented for December 17, 2024?
Yeah, I'll second that, but I have a question for Rob. Rob, what do you want to accomplish by adding the staff report to these minutes?
Well, as I said, it was an excellent report that the chief had prepared. It discusses development projects within the district, and we have many of those. And I thought that further explanation to include the minutes and include the staff report would be another added reference point for whoever wanted to reference current or future projects that are going to be done in the district.
I mean, there's no resolution on that report per se. I mean, it's not like, it was just to discuss the development projects. So are you thinking that that will bolster the resolution that's attached in attachment A that you brought forward to the board?
Well, we attached a failed resolution.
But that's why that's in here.
Yeah, well, that's what I was just saying.
Right, but the staff report was not a
Could I finish,
resolution.
please?
Yeah.
Thank you. We have the resolution attached, so I thought with the resolution, it would be more specific and more explainable in order to have the original staff report that went into the explanation involving instances where the fire district either would get involved or not get involved.
So,
But-
Michelle,
hold on.
Michelle, so the process, say for example, we approved it, right?
Mhm.
I mean, what would be the process of getting last month's staff report into this month?
It would just be an attachment.
But my whole thing, Robert, is that that was not a resolution that we voted on, right? This was a failed, attachment A was a resolution that we did not vote on, which is the reason it's in here as an action, which is exactly what our board policies and procedures tell us that minutes are supposed to reflect. The staff report doesn't reflect an action, in my opinion, unless I missed something.
My concern's a little different. There's
Well,
staff,
I
there's
guess-
multiple staff reports that are submitted as part of our board packets.
Yeah.
That make up a meeting, and we don't, as a practice, we've never included any of those staff reports in the minutes.
Well, I agree
And
with you.
I personally don't think we should begin that practice, given they are all publicly available on the website as part of, all those staff reports are part of the packet.
Well, I mean, that's why I
They're publicly
seconded your
available.
motion, because I don't wanna
Yeah.
set a precedent.
Yeah, that's my concern.
And what I'm saying is
But they're
that based on
housed
what Steve
separately.
said,
They're not
based on
housed
what Steve said in terms of items, that the actions we've taken, that was not
It wasn't an action.
Right,
That
so
was,
that-
that was information to support a discussion that led to an action.
Yeah, I just want to remind people that we're having this discussion, but we voted to include Virginia's comments as board president to the minutes. They didn't involve an action either, so we've
that
already,
wasn't a staff report, Jack.
it doesn't matter, it was something else. And it didn't further an action that the board did, so somehow, I mean, I'm not saying that's an argument for doing what Rob's saying, I'm just saying we've already violated the purpose of the minutes once, and we did it for you, and I think you ought to at least be a little bit gracious about having done it once before.
His
I think that-
resolution's in here,
I think,
that's the same as my comments.
I think the question is, and Chuck, you have a valid point, we have violated a lot of things, because I've been on board. And the question is, at what point do we try to correct ourselves? And start doing things according to what, it says in our bylaws. We can continue to violate them, but I think the point is, if the information can be achieved through a very simple means by going back to the next month and reading the staff report, that's not too much of a sacrifice that I think needs to go on, should be that much of a problem. Versus continue to go along a path of violating what we have established as the board policies and procedures that we should not do. So at what point do we stop
Violate.
being enrolled on things and start doing it according to the policy? That's my dilemma at this point in time.
Chuck makes a good point. We all agreed to put Virginia's comments in the actual minutes. And this is a staff report that wasn't even prepared by one of our board members, but it was a document that was asked for as reference material for an item that identifies and explains what the position should be or continued, how can I put this? Procedure or review that what the fire district would do in these items with these projects that are involving cities within our fire district. And it's an excellent reference guide where the chief breaks down what the fire district can do and can't do in the 4 particular areas. So, I mean, the resolution, I think this is more valuable reference to what the staff report says than a failed resolution.
So, I think that we had an impasse on some things and we have consensus on other things, so. I mean, there has been a motion made by Gary to approve Ford, and second by Virginia. So I guess we just need to, right at this point, kind of vote on whether, staff report would be included into.
The motion was to approve the minutes.
Right,
It wasn't to approve the
Approve
minutes.
the minutes as submitted.
yes.
Just as submitted.
Okay. So, sure, no other comments and questions, then we call for vote. So.
Sure. Director Weinstein,
Nay.
Director Jones,
Yes.
Director Crowley,
Aye.
Director Solana,
No,
Director Norman.
Aye.
My apologies, you were supposed to go last, Director Jones, but I'll get that right next time.
It would have been.
It's okay.
You get to do that mistake one time.
First meeting of the year.
We'll move on to item number. Item number 5,
For regular.
which is the, regular agenda items, so we have a staff for a minute.
That is, maybe it should be, this is a request for the board to approve the district's strategic plan. You have it in your board packet, in addition to, basically the parts that we've reviewed in front of the board. There is, all of the surveys and the underlying documents that helped us inform our decisions as we went through those processes. That's the entire strategic plan. But we had a special board meeting on December 10th, 2024. The board had some opportunities for some very good input, which was reflected in the plan. The process started back, really back in 2023 when we had a board goal setting meeting and having the strategic plan showed up on there. We engaged the services of AP Triton and had Dan Peterson come and assist us through a number of our processes. We engaged a variety of stakeholders through public meetings, and those include community groups, professional groups, internal stakeholders, our board. We did surveys and in-person meetings. The board had 2 meetings to weigh in on the process. And the outcome is the plan that sits before you today. Pages 1 through 18 are in essence what we reviewed before the board. And the action items are really on pages 14 through 18. I would just like to share, I know the board has already said it, but if we have any members of the public that are listening, that the primary focus areas that we plan on addressing over the next 5 years are service to the community, leadership, workforce demographics, organizational culture and professional development, and operational infrastructure. Through at the December 10th meeting, it became really clear that the board wanted to continually work with staff on this process. And so there was a commitment for us to come to the board on a quarterly basis, help identify priorities. And I just should note that the order that the items appear in the actual plan just have to deal with it. That was the chronological order that we address them in. They're not prioritized. The board is going to help us set the priorities when we meet with the board quarterly and also share with them updates. So that is the plan. It is a living document. So even if we decide that we'd like to do something else that's not in the plan, we can do that. We can update the plan whenever we desire, but This is as of today, the 5-year plan looking forward. And with that, I will open it up to questions. In the absence of questions, request that the board adopt a resolution approving the district's 2025 to 2029 strategic plan.
Thank you, Robert. All right, questions? Oh, sir.
I do have a question, and how should I say, it? I found this very helpful and interesting in lots of ways, so I don't want my comments to be interpreted as negative about what's in here. But I want to be clear that, first of all, it's not clear from the staff report whether this is the strategic plan or this is a draft of a strategic plan. It's stamped all over draft. And yet it's never referred to as a draft anywhere.
And we'll be asked to approve it.
And it says, and in the recommendations here, the first recommendation is accept the report as presented. So here it's called a report. I have two very general comments. One is, I don't think this is in any way a strategic plan. There's no plan. It doesn't say, oh, it says, oh, in this year, we might do some things about leadership or, something of that sort. But this is not what I would call a strategic plan. It's still valuable in lots of ways. And it seems to me there's really two parts to it. One are some priorities that we ought to discuss, and I agree that we can discuss them. And the second is, there's a whole bunch of data in here and all these reports. And in trying to read it, I felt like I kept reading the same thing over and over and over. That's not that it's bad, but it almost could be somehow condensed. We know, that yes, there should be more training. Yes, we should watch costs. Yes, there's these platitudes, but that's not a plan. That's just these kind of nice to haves. And I think that we need some more work before we call this a strategic plan. I would be embarrassed to show this to someone and say, here's our strategic plan, because I don't think it's that. Again, I think it's got some great information in here. There's some issues about morale, there's some issues, a whole bunch of things that I think we need to address and we should address. But I don't think showing it to someone and saying it's a plan, I think it's not responsible in some ways.
I will share that if the board adopts it tonight, the draft will get removed and it will get posted up as our strategic plan, whether the board decides it's the strategic plan or a different word, that's up to the board. All of the pages of, survey results and internal results are repetitive. And really it's included in there for the sake of transparency. And we don't want to necessarily summarize what people's input was to us. And we tried to include all of it so that, like I said, in being transparent, that this is what helped inform us along with the community meetings, along with that. So
I
I know
think
that
we
doesn't
should
address all
publish
of
it. I think we should publish it, don't misunderstand me. I just don't think we should call that part of it the strategic plan. It could be
We
the
can call it
appendix, or
appendix.
it could be anything,
we
but,
can do that.
okay.
Really, the strategic plan is pages 1 through 18, and that is, we can call it appendix.
Yeah, I actually, are you done, Jen?
Yes, thank you.
So I, have actually a few comments about this document. Mark, and you may not even be able to answer some of the questions, but, a lot of it has to do with language that I think needs to be cleared up, or, what does this mean? And like, if I look at page 9, under the community SWOT analysis, under opportunities, which is the left bottom quadrant. The 6th bullet point, fall reduction program, or what is the fall reduction program? What is that? Fall vegetation reduction program, I mean, what?
And I can share with you, as we go through, this is one of the opportunities. That means it's an area we're not currently addressing, and we realize that
But what is
we don't have a specific fall collection program, but there's an opportunity to start one.
But is it seasonal or when someone falls? I mean, what is,
Oh, it would be a program that we, work on year round with our communities, and generally it's with our elderly.
the definition of, what's the definition of fall?
Fall down.
Okay, okay.
Sorry.
Just- 'cause I mean,
The EMS version of fall.
okay.
EMS
It's not
definition
an
of fall.
autumn
It's not an
program.
autumn, well, I
No.
mean, because, you know, with leaves fall, you know.
No, I get it.
Right, that,
Yeah,
so,
I
I mean,
It's the
just
stumbles
some-
we all take and land on the ground.
Right, okay, so, exactly, and so little
It's
things,
a slips and falls kind of thing.
Yeah,
As
okay,
we have
so-
Face
our-
plants.
our-
yeah, so a little bit, like, so little things like that,
Right.
and then if you look on page 22, which is the census data information, I'm looking at households 2018 to 2022, it has under San Mateo County, 264,323. Is that the households in the district, including all these other city, I mean, where is that number? What does that 264,323 include?
It says it up above. It's the cities of Atherton, Menlo Park, East Palo Alto, the county of San Mateo.
I know, but we have the other households broken out for the other cities. So is this number the total number of all of them, all these cities plus the unincorporated areas?
That would be all of San Mateo County.
No, well, that's what what's the number? I mean, what's included in that number? Within the fire district, I mean, maybe I misread this, so I'm just, wanna make sure that this information is clear, maybe it's just me, but,
I think the whole San Mateo, I mean, Chief, correct me if I'm incorrect, I think the whole San Mateo County column is county-wide, it is not the subset of the unincorporated areas addressed by
well,
the district.
well, you would think that based on these numbers, right?
Yeah,
But this
well,
is the fire.
And I'm also going based on what it says above, where it's the county of San Mateo, it doesn't say the unincorporated areas in the county of San Mateo.
Well, I mean, so that's the clarity I would
Right.
want, right, because this report or the strategic plan is only for our fire district, right? So is there a number for the unincorporated areas of San Mateo County, which we represent in North Fair Oaks and unincorporated West Menlo? I mean, I don't disagree, Gary, I just, for me, I just wanted some clarity.
Yeah, it's
on that.
impossible for those numbers to
I-
be.
For our fire district,
For
right? I
the
know.
unincorporated areas we cover.
Yeah. So,
I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't pay a lot of attention to the detail of the census reports, it's informational in there, and it may or not, like you said, it does not reflect our unincorporated areas. We could, it's a living document, we could work on,
breaking. up
Updating that?
number, Yeah. I would.
so I could certainly do that, that's not a problem if the board still approves the essence of the report in pages 1 through 18, I can go in and make some corrections.
Okay, and then page 32, I mean, this is, I have other, I mean, I could probably do some of this offline with you. If you, or I don't know if y'all want it, I mean, these are just like the glaring ones for me on page 32. Like the second to the last paragraph, it says, on the lower end of the spectrum. And this is under specialized rescue operations, I'm assuming that's the subcategory. for it.
Last paragraph on the page?
Second to the last
Second.
paragraph, on the lower end of the spectrum, what does that mean?
So that, I mean, that refers to the rating up above when we were asking people to rate things in order of critical priority.
Okay,
We
is
found
that?
that people rated, they were referring to the lower end of the critical priority spectrum, so
Okay,
they
I
rated
would,
them lower than other areas.
okay, I would make that clear, because this looks like that there's a bifurcation of higher end services and lower end services.
It was just the way the surveys showed us what was
Okay.
important.
Well, I know, but that's
We
not,
could
I mean,
change
it's
the word
in
now.
here, but it's not like in the immediate
Sure.
narrative. And then this last paragraph, basically the last sentence, same page, sorry, page 32. The last sentence where it says, specialized services for the mentally ill individuals, I really dislike mentally ill individual. And is it really gonna be that narrow, or is it for specialized services for people with special needs or mental disabilities, and what is mentally ill? Yeah, I think mentally ill is a pretty derogatory term. That's just my personal.
We can change the terminology.
Well, I mean, but special, people with special needs is not the same as people with mental disabilities. I mean, I just, so what does that mean?
It should probably be specialized mental health services.
Something, yeah, something like that, right?
Mental health is the more
Crucial,
common
yeah,
way to refer to it than mentally ill.
exactly, yeah. So it's like little things like that, but I think they're important since this is gonna be a living document that's public. I mean, so there are other things, but those are like the main glaring ones
And
for
if
me.
you have some
I
other
can,
things,
Yeah.
yeah, please let me know and we can make changes.
yeah, so those are the big ones for me.
Okay.
Sorry, Robert, but.
No, it's important, I think that's what the chief wants.
Yeah.
It's still in a draft term
Yeah.
until we get, at least the board opinion on areas that need clarification on. Sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna just point out one thing, and it's similar to, but different. Yeah, that's similar to what Virginia just did, that if, look at please page 10.
I probably have it.
Page 10. And I wanna bring your attention to one of the strengths. It's just a little bit more than halfway down, strengths. It's one of the strengths is support from the leadership team. You see that?
Mhm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The seventh bullet from the bottom.
Yes.
Support from the leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and then if we look over at the weaknesses on the right, the third from the bottom,
Management.
needs to continue earning the trust of the rank and file.
So I circled that too.
It seems like we've got internal contradictions here. And I found a number, and you can go even further here. Under opportunities, the fourth one down, it says management needs to continue earning the trust of rank and file. There's just, which is it? I mean,
They're both true.
well,
I mean, that is just the reality is that there is really strong support, you know, coming from leadership, as they say there. But there's still, and there probably will be as long as I'm here, is just that the continuing earning of trust from people. People generally have a distrust of management. People generally don't know an outside fire chief. So, I mean, they both will probably always be true.
well, I guess to me, here's the question. Do I care what the rank and file opinion is of this? Or do I care about what a professional's assessment of our strengths and weaknesses? In other words, to say, oh, it's a strength and a weakness, how do we act on that? I don't know. Do we want to get rid of our weaknesses, or do we want to keep our weaknesses because they're our strengths? At some point, it feels like double talk. It's something that's really hard for me to operationalize.
Well, I think if you know, what's the matter with the book, I think it's sort of like any information that is gathered and put together, like a report that came from the initial survey that was done by staff. There were some people thought it was great, some people thought it was so-so, and some thought it stunk. I mean, you have that when you're surveying the groups of both. The key to it is being, if you're trying to move one to the other, from the negative to the positive, you need to understand what people are saying, no matter what it is, so that you can kind of begin to assess internally whether are the people right? Maybe there's some issues that is not widely talked about, but there are a group of people that are talking about it and they're kind of disappointed. So how do you move from one to the other? You have to have the information and you have to have a direction in order to go, be pointed in order to try to figure out whether that's an individual or personal thing, or is it a systemic problem within the institution? Right now, I don't think we really know. That's part of kind of understanding what are the opportunities, possible opportunities, and what are the challenges that we face.
That's why I was suggesting that I think this merits some bit more discussion before it gets published, because we can't really digest it or use it at this point. I mean, we can say, yes, it's debatable, there's different opinions, or, you know, they have a lot of trust, but we could still have more trust. I mean, it's just not clear what to do with that information.
Gary?
Yeah, so having been through strategic planning processes more time than I like to think of, my general conclusion is you can never capture the spirit that everybody wants in the final report or the final, the strategic plan. And my theory on the reason for it is it's kind of a form of art. And if we had a piece of art up on the wall, we would all have various opinions about the quality of the art, whether we thought it was good art, whether it was total trash, whether it was expensive or cheap. You could put all the qualities on it. And then, so to me, this reflects some of that fact that there is a form of art attached to the strategic plan. And so when I read it, at least, I didn't read it and say, well, does this meet the way I always like to do the exact structure of a strategic plan? Or does this do an adequate job of communicating the priorities and what we're focused on and the issues we're trying to address? And for me, it meets that test. It's the qualitative test because otherwise we're into the wordsmithing of it. And then secondarily, on the strengths versus weaknesses, challenges, opportunities, whenever you do SWOT analysis, it's been my experience that there's always competing comments, because, and if you want to be transparent in your plan, you're going to have competing, because you're going to have, one half of the room that says this is awesome, and another half of the room that says no, it's terrible, or one's the glass is half full, one's the glass is half empty. And then the question is, how much do you want to scrub the feedback that your employees gave you and your community members, everybody else, versus reflect what they said? And that's another kind of form of art that you have to make a decision on when you do a strategic plan is, do I want to include it? I think I can kind of see AP Triton's general approach to reflecting in this report. I think Chuck made a really good comment that it does get a little confusing, which is the plan and which is the appendix or supporting information. So my recommendation would be that the board approve the strategic plan with the modification of breaking out the appendix. And then over the next few days, if there's, kind of wording changes, wordsmithing changes, that individual board members have the right to kind of go discuss those with the chief, and leave it to the chief's discretion, so he can finalize the report sometime in the next few days.
So I
So that would be
agree.
kind of my general proposal, because otherwise we're ready to debate
Right.
the form of art. And that's a debate that I generally try to avoid.
I understand where Gary's coming from, relative to looking at the and either half empty or half full. And there were just some areas, a lot of it was more than affective type, like, we want to be a great fire agency. I mean, of course we do. Those types of statements that are in the plan. Then we have, some issues that we're dealing with, which I don't understand this ISO rating thing at all, right? Points are, well, you don't have this point, you're at that point, but, we're a class 2 fire agency, we should be a class 1. It doesn't specifically, like Task Force 3 did a great deal on it. And it talks about operationally the way we're a sound organization, but specifically, that's a big thing, for us to get a really good audit score. And when we're talking about dispatch services, we do have software issues with command tablet and Disappear. Those are issues. It's mentioned under communication, but specifically, if someone came in here and said, well, what's the communication issue relative to it? Well, it's a software program, but it's not specifically identified in the document. So, I think those types of things need to be chief and his staff in order to work through those things. And as the chief said, this is a living, breathing document. So those things can go in the other column. We can go from challenges to, what is it, improvements, or challenges to strengths, you know, relative to solve those issues. So I think overall, I'm with Gary. I think we should approve the report, but have chief and his staff fine tune it operationally.
Right.
For what his needs are.
Sure, we'll close that.
Yeah, so I just want, Mark, I just want you to know that my little gripes were just mainly writing, right, not with the overall plan but I agree with Gary in terms of this, and Chuck to kind of like the dividing one, but I just want to make it known that, you know, our consultants wrote this report, and I think, I was just trying to make sure that we had a report that the community would understand more clearly. So, I mean, I'm happy to make a motion to, you didn't make the motion.
Finish the comments.
Oh, okay, so, I was gonna make the draft, but whatever, you can make. Okay.
One last thing.
Oh, sorry.
One more last thing. From my perspective, I think part of it, Gary said, and I think that you got all this body of information here that's telling us pros and cons of where we are as I think as an institution. But like most plans without some formalized work plan on how do we get from these overall our vision, our aspirations, how do we get to a working document where it is, here we are, here's a goal, here's objectives, and here's this is where we're gonna get. This to me is telling us a snapshot of where we are today. You know, but we gotta take those and figure out how we're gonna make it come alive as an institution. And I don't know who's gonna actually take part in it. I don't know if that's gonna look at that and say, here's what we are proposing in terms of how we get how do we get to Southern California? You know, what roads, what highways we take to get there. And I think that's where
Our own emergency, primary emergency response, any of that, right?
any of that. I think this is just the beginning phase. We gotta get to the beginning approval of, you know, if everybody goes, your foundation, most of the foundations, then you can start working out some of the other details.
I mean, I'm
That
happy.
kind of goes back to Chuck's comment a little bit, Robert, though, which is there's a lot of content in here that's supporting content, not the actionable part. At the end of the day, where I spend most of my time looking at this was page 14 and page 18,
Yeah,
which are, here's the initiatives and here's who owns the
Yeah.
different parts of the initiative. This is what we're gonna work on. To me, these are the activities that when the board does the quarterly process, which is called for, I think on page 6 of the report, that we review the action items quarterly. This is where we should spend the time at the board, is reviewing the progress against the initiatives, you know, versus the timeline that was suggested, you know, so that all this gets done by the time, the end of the life of the strategic plan. And it can change amongst it. So that's why I do think Chuck made a really good change, which is, you know, focused everybody on the part that's actionable in it, which is really going up to page 18. And then just make it very clear that what's called environmental assessment is really supporting information. It's not environmental assessment, it's just the supporting data or supporting I like the term information because it's qualitative and quantitative both. But to me, it's pretty clearly laid out what the district is, you know, kind of and in this case, the board by approving it is tasking staff to go work on relative to the strategic plan. I just think it gets lost in the mass of the document.
Yeah.
Yeah, the consultants earn their money because they get paid by the page, so.
Well, I mean, I agree with
I'm
Gary.
kidding, of course.
Yeah, I'll just share quickly, Director Bloom is right, that pages that I pay attention to are pages 14 through 18. Those are our initiatives. They're somewhat broad and overarching. Understand that when we meet with the board quarterly, there will be the opportunity for us to focus in on specific issues. I will never, I promise you, never say, as the board directs me, that, whoa, it's not in our strategic plan. Right? But as I said, you know, like the ISO stuff, it would be hard to find specifically where and here it fits. But we know that's a high priority of the board. We heard that at the meeting where we were talking about it. So there, I'm sure that will be, you know, a part of it. The dispatch services is kind of addressed in here. It's a broad issue that we have. But that is fine.
Yeah, I think what comes with approval is the notion that says, hey, this is forecasting the future. So to some extent, we're predicting how we think everything's gonna turn. We could wake up 30 days from now and go, we need to toss this whole thing and do something totally different.
Because of an incident.
Yeah,
or
if we had an incident through one of our communities similar to Southern California, I suspect our strategic plan would look different. Yeah, so I think that gets back to the living and breathing point in time aspect. So
Yeah.
I'm done. That's all the comments I have.
Okay.
So Mark, I agree with everything everyone has said about the actual plan and everything, but we were asked to read this document, this entire document, which I tried to do, okay?
Thank you.
And so the supporting information, I think, is to substantiate what the plan is, and so that's why I try to go into detail. I agree with everything with everyone else said, but when you're asked to read a document and you're asked to vote on it as a final document, this is probably one of the few opportunities to make suggestions or whatever, right? So I'm happy to make the motion to approve this with the understanding also that if there are these types of language changes, I mean, these are like the glaring ones for me, right? That we can come to you. But otherwise, this is the plan that we'll adopt. I'll make that motion to adopt the district's 2025, 2029 strategic plan.
Motion been made, is there a second?
I see.
Is there a second?
No, you did.
Gary did.
Okay, there is a second. No, all in favor?
No, wait.
Chuck has-
Oh, yeah.
I have a real quick question. Just- I'm looking at initiative 1 right now, but what is the operations chief? What role is that?
That's Chief McDonald's position.
Is he called operations chief?
He's a division chief in charge of operations. So,
Oh, I see. Okay, I just wasn't sure who that
Sure.
was. Thank you.
At one stage, I'd point out the report had names in places and we asked that they all be titled
No,
based.
it
To the
still does.
position.
Yeah,
It still
There
does.
is- there
in
is,
very unique
there-
situations.
we eliminated them to the point where we could.
I knew that, yeah.
But yes.
Any other comments? Not call for vote, Michelle.
Director Bernstein,
I'm gonna vote nay, and I'd like the minutes to reflect that I don't think this is ready to go to the community yet.
Director Crowley,
Aye.
Director Solano,
Aye.
Director Bloom,
I,
Director Jones.
Aye. So ayes have it. Motion
So
carried.
yes, if you have additional comments, we will post it up for a week and I will also post that additional data as.
Well, I think in the meantime, we can get Triton to clarify at least the San Mateo County data, 'cause it's not
I will.
consistent with the 3 cities, the 2 cities in town.
All right, we move on to item number 6. Which is to adopt a resolution approving the fire marshal classification, job description, and salary.
This is me and maybe Francine, depends on the question you may have. Obviously, everyone's aware that Chief Johnston is going to be retiring in May, which oftentimes when we have somebody departing, it gives us an opportunity to look at positions and make some tweaking when we don't have an incumbent sitting in the seat. So that is what is before you today. We have gone through and created a new job say, a job description for a classification that we're gonna call fire marshal, not associate a division chief with the fire marshal. There have been some minor modifications in the qualifications. Probably the most significant thing that we are proposing is restructuring of the pay range, and that's to, it won't be aligned exactly with the battalion chiefs. I think the lower end of the fire marshal rank will be broader than the BCs, but it is consistent with what at least 7 of our other surrounding agencies do, and that is aligning their civilian fire marshal with the battalion chief position as far as pay goes. The other thing that I'm interested in doing is, Chief Johnston has obviously been here for quite a long time, and for the sake of continuity with our relationships with the cities and some of our larger developers and other businesses around here, I'm looking to get this recruitment moving in a pretty quick fashion so that the new candidate can overlap with Chief Johnston for 2 weeks. Chief Johnston will be gone effective May 16th. And so if the board approves this tonight, we will open the recruitment tomorrow and start moving us along the timeline, which will allow the candidate to come on board and have a 2-week overlap, which is really, I think, important for us in our relationships with our communities and cities and, like I said, business. With that, that's my recommendation, is to adopt the resolution approving the fire marshal classification, job description, and salary range. And I'm happy to answer your questions or go through the
Rob, thank you. I know in law enforcement operationally, it's a question I'm very close to. If you make this position a lower position than division chief, fire marshal side, and it would be more of a battalion chief. When I went over this, I didn't see anything relative, if you could take this individual and say, you're a battalion chief for shift 8. Do we want to do that, to have it like in a cross training type position?
No, that wouldn't be my preference. Yeah, like to make.
No,
a
but I mean, I'm
staff
just
captain.
asking because.
Sure, it's a valid question. And so no, it's not similar to like what we did with the task force position where we created a 40-hour battalion chief. Right, and it's, we're not looking to do something similar here. Usually the way people come up through the fire prevention ranks, it's not usually up through firefighter captain. It happens in some organizations, but generally the most qualified candidates come up through fire prevention, go to school for that, have degrees in that. I will also say that even though we've removed the division chief title in the classification description, it is likely that that person is going to have the same kind of authority as a division chief, and that they'll be running a division. They will be the equivalent of a division chief. I just don't want to tie them to that classification in the salary range. Interesting, Bob Block, who's now part of management and is an assistant fire marshal, wears battalion chief bugles, the 2 bugles on his collar. This person probably will still wear the 3 bugles of a division chief to signify that.
Take bugles away from people.
Yeah, no, it's just, but it is, it's kind of a, it's a kind of a delicate dance too on trying to still give people some administrative authority and some horsepower in the organization. That person will still be part of my executive staff. Along with that, and is that position at will? And at will, which means that I will, as we talked about before, socialize the selection with you before announcing the selection. So we'll get some information when we get close, so that the board has ability to interact with me before I make a choice.
That's good. Thank you, Chief.
Lots of
There's
work.
nothing- no, I'm just trying to
Sure.
see the intermix between
Sure.
operations and.
Yeah.
We'll just go down the line to Gary and.
So this is gonna start, the search is gonna start right after we.
If you approve it.
Yeah, so how long do you think it will take on this one?
So, because we are on a tight timeline, we're
Yeah.
going to.
An hour?
Post pretty aggressively and have it open for 3 weeks.
Okay.
Also, we have to go through the, 2 phases of interviews, a background. We would like the person to be able to start, no later than April 16th, so they can have a 2-week lapse before. Yeah.
Okay, good, yeah, so we are on pretty.
Yeah, working backwards, we know we can do it. If for some reason we come back to the board next month, we won't be able to, like.
Yeah, that's why,
So-
that wasn't in here, so that's why I wanted to.
Yeah. And normally this would go through HR committee and be fed, and obviously, as we have the, change, or changeover, we didn't have committee meetings in January.
Thank you.
Jeff, I wanted to ask a question, I'm in support of this, but this in some ways seems like an upgrade, so I wanted to ask you about the education requirement. This requires a bachelor's degree. In the past, we haven't required a bachelor's degree from the division chiefs. What, can you just summarize where we are with respect to bachelor's degrees?
You recall what the
Or our
requirements
current
are?
attendance or just the class description?
In our requirements for a division chief, are they required to have a bachelor's degree? I think
I
not.
think it's in the job description, though, I don't know that we have enforced that internally. Right, so I know that two of them have a bachelor's degree, one does not currently.
Well, I'm saying this because I see this as an upgrade. I actually think that somebody who can know something about chemistry and things like that is a really important thing, and for division chiefs also. And it's always troubled me that we have these senior officers who don't know anything about advanced math or advanced science or whatever.
We
So-
will, yes, the
I'm-
qualifications will be, will be upheld. That's the minimum requirement, no exceptions on that. Separately with the division chiefs, we are, working on that in the future. That, when I went through the process, that was very important for somebody to have, either have a bachelor's degree or have a very clear plan on being able to attain one within a very short amount of time. Yes, we're going there, and we're also gonna be doing that, in the future related to the time chiefs.
Okay, well, I encourage that direction. I see this actually, even though you talked about it as a downgrade, I view it as an upgrade, so.
Yeah, we've enhanced the requirements, and then also I know this wasn't a question that was asked, but the pay is still gonna be very competitive. We expect to be very highly qualified candidate.
Thank you.
I think this is a great recommendation. I'm supportive. I don't have any comments.
Since we're running, and I don't have any comments myself, other than, it seemed like person probably can get the experience and working with community and doing the job, the work they actually do. Because one of the, critical components for this person is taking over the community outreach part of it. Something I think really critical to try to move that whole aspect of, that program in that area. So I just assume that because they're in the job and work with people in the community, they're gonna get a lot of experience.
That will be a very important part of the selection process, is having somebody that can perform and oversee both functions, the risk reduction, the community risk reduction outreach side, as well as the fire prevention side with, plan reviews, all of the really intricate issues that we have up here with some of our local businesses.
Robert, can I follow up with yours when you're done?
I'm done.
No, but go to Rob or something, but I
And
think.
Robert's done too.
We're done.
I want to
I
follow
want to make the motion.
So I just want to follow up on your question because I think I was meant to ask this also. Could you indicate in terms of how many people are being managed by this position compared to how many people are being managed by the division chiefs in general? It would seem like the fire marshal might be managing more people than any of the division chiefs, no?
Direct report, or, I mean, the biggest, Chief McDonough has the most people under him, because he's got all of operations, which is everyone in the fire stations. You know, he's got 6 battalion chiefs that report to him, but all of the fire personnel. Chief Johnston has direct report wise, I mean, he deals directly with Heather and then really Bob Block. So 2, but staffing wise, he's got a good amount of staff on both sides.
Yeah, equally important is that they're the constituent facing group. That's one thing.
Yeah.
Hey, Ralph, on you.
So me,
Yeah,
make a motion.
make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion, to, let's see, I wanna be sure I get it.
That's it.
Resolution to, approving the fire marshal classification, job description and salary range.
I'll second that.
The motion been moved, second, call the questions.
Director Bernstein,
Aye.
Director Crawley, Director Solana,
Aye.
Director Bloom,
Right,
Director Jones.
Aye, motion carried. Move on to item 7. Which is accept the 2025 district board and community meeting calendar. Michelle.
There's nothing really to go over. The district meeting calendar provides the board, staff, and public with advance notice of meeting dates and serves primarily as an ongoing reference guide as meetings are sometimes canceled, rescheduled, or added, or times are changed. And the attachment lists the calendar, and that is it.
So I hope everyone had a chance to glance at that and maybe look at your own personal calendar for the year, so we can kind of make some adjustments that you need to make now. If not, and please by our next board meeting, if you haven't, to make sure that we are, these dates, or we don't have to change these dates later on.
I was hoping you would accept them tonight. I did check to make sure that that none of them, that everybody that was on a committee, on more than one committee, that they didn't have to wait, you know, there wasn't another committee that they weren't in, and then the next committee they were in. So I did confirm that those were
Yes.
good. And hopefully, I was hoping that everybody had already looked at the calendar to make sure that those times work. And if not, then, well, if the board wants to wait till next month, then that'll need to be the case. So that's fine.
We can always adjust, right?
And they can be
Yeah,
adjusted, and that's the other thing too, thank you for bringing that up, is that oftentimes if the meeting doesn't work for somebody, they'll let me know, and then I'll contact the other committee member and see if we can change times or even days. So this is just, like I said, in the staff report, that it's just a general guideline. So,
Okay. Any questions,
I just have one.
Rob?
Yeah, under, City of Menlo Park,
Or
on the assignment.
it's not, we're not.
This is just the
yes,
calendar.
for the
This is calendar.
calendar.
I got confused.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay. Okay, a motion.
I'll move to accept the 2025 district board and committee meeting calendar.
Motion. The names,
Second.
Rob second. Your comment for the you can call the vote. Joe?
Okay, Director Bernstein,
Aye.
Director Crawley,
Aye.
Director Solana,
Aye.
Director Bloom.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
All right, we've done this business before now. Item number 8, which is accept the 2025 family committee and liaison appointment. I think everybody had a chance to hopefully look at the this schedule 8. Are there any comments and confusion? Joe?
Yeah, I don't want to take too long on this, but,
You got 5 minutes.
I won't use it. I just, I have the observation here that when we distribute roles, Virginia has 4 roles on this. Gary has 4 roles. Robert has 4 roles. And lo and behold, Chuck has 2. And it feels discriminatory to me. I don't mean on any protected basis. I'm just talking about against me personally. I also noticed, by the way, that Rob has only 2 as well. And I'm trying to figure out why this happened or what this means. And I basically have 2 hypotheses. One was that when I was chair in 2022, I had done something similar. But I look back and realized that I tried to spread leadership around as much as I possibly could. So Virginia was chair of the Finance Committee. Robert was chair of the Emergency Preparedness Committee. Rob Solano was chair of Human Resources. Gary was not yet on the board. And so it seems like my feeling was that leadership was something that we should all be sharing roughly equally. So it seems like that hypothesis isn't very good. And the other is that maybe people don't like what I say, or it's a form of censorship, which is the hypothesis that I'm operating under right now. So I'm gonna do again what I did when Gary was president of the board. He did something similar, and I just don't feel like I want to participate in that kind of, I don't know, negativity or something. So I'm going to basically say that I don't intend to participate in any leadership role whatsoever, whether it be a committee or a liaison. Obviously, I'm still reading everything and doing all my homework, but I'm not going to attend any of these meetings.
It's unfortunate, Chuck, really, I'm not saying it not be funny, it's unfortunate. I think what you always accused here on the board, and there's been ebb and flow throughout the years. Some people get more assigned positions, others don't, as you can, yeah. And so I'm not here to try to belittle you, or I thought I was making a decision based upon where my years on the board and where people, I think, will function the best based upon, if you know that you are on the facility committee, all last year, you was asking questions about the facility and something there. And I thought that would be a good opportunity for you to sit on that particular committee. Gary has developed, I don't know how many properties himself as executive director or president of the companies he's with, so he has keen experience in that. So did I. You know, I developed affordable housing, 360-some units I built. You know, so I mean, yeah, if I wanted to continue in that area, but I thought it would be more of give you an opportunity to sit on there as board. You had some concerns, some valid concerns, that you would be close to that particular activity, and as a result, you would have something to share. So if you take it personally, I'm sorry. If you don't want to sit on it, I'm sorry about that too. You know, it can be reassigned. But I thought that if anybody else has some concern about the committees they're sitting on, we voice it now. I'll give you my opinion about it. And it's nothing personal. It was somewhere those areas where I thought you would be able to have a lot to give and share with that particular committee. Any other? Rob?
Yeah, I see there that, you have, Gary down as Atherton, of course yourself, East Palo Alto, and then Virginia that doesn't, I think that should go to someone that actually lives in Menlo Park, because that's kind of the trend that you've set up here, you know, relative to, the liaison assignment. So I think that position, and you know, I think either myself or Chuck, since we do live in Menlo Park, should occupy one of those positions.
Any other comments?
We have to populate the San Francisco Creek JPA committee, and the second person on the facilities committee, if Director Bernstein doesn't want to be a part of those committees.
If that's good, so wishes, then we will scratch this thing out. And anyone wants to take those assignments? Rob, facilities,
Which assignment was that?
facilities,
Yeah.
Rob,
Might need to, want to do the creek, because the creek is really important to use how. It's okay.
no, Park has the control
Yeah,
over,
that's true.
over that, so that's why.
Do you want,
Chuck was, I thought would be the ideal person to continue that meeting, so. Is there any other volunteers for? these?
I don't know anything about the creek, but I'm happy to fill the void if necessary and pick up the additional liaison role. And the work of the board's gotta get done, so it's, yeah, it's down to 4 people, then we all have to do a little more.
Okay. So we might have, Gary,
Yeah, I'll do the creek.
okay, Miguel, can you make a change in the adjustment?
Yeah, and just to confirm, Director Solano is gonna be on facilities and Director Bloom on a liaison as to San Francisco Creek JPA.
Right,
Yeah,
I'll borrow my son's kayak and take a tour of it, so they can finding on.
you won't find it with dishwashers and cars, you know. All right,
that's gonna kind of mess up the calendar that I was trying to be considerate of, because there's the emergency preparedness committee. And then as the first committee of the day, and then facilities as the last committee of the day. So,
you have to make the adjustments.
well, yeah, we'll figure it out.
So, is there no other comments?
I'll move to accept and approve the 2025 Funding Committee and the liaison appointments.
So there's motion been made.
As amended,
As amended, yes.
I'll second.
Are we still gonna do
Here,
select Virginia as the Menlo Park liaison, even though she doesn't live in Menlo Park?
You know what, I'd like to comment on that. I represent the entire fire district. Right, so I'm gonna make that very clear. I'm not gonna segment, my representation, and since we are district, we're at large. And quite frankly, Rob, I was gonna bring this up in the reports and the requests of directors. I think you may actually have a conflict given the fact that you're recalling or trying to recall the mayor of Menlo Park. No, but this is the reason I think I'm the appropriate liaison person. Because right now, and I've heard from members of the public that they think the fire board and the fire district are behind supporting this recall when we are not. So I don't think that Rob Solano should be the liaison for Menlo Park. So that's why I made the motion to have me stay in this position. So my motion is on the table with the amendments, with Director Solano being on the facilities committee, with Gary Bloom, Director Bloom, and with Director Bloom being on the San Francisco Creek JPA. So that's the motion that's been seconded. And I'll call for the question.
and I'm sorry, with Director Bloom, did you second that?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So can I call the person?
Yes, you may call the question.
May I?
Go further.
No, I called
Since
the
I've
question.
been,
I've called the question.
Virginia, yeah, at the moment. Rob, okay.
do you know of any formalized papers or anything that's been filed against, Drew? Do you know of any?
I know it's been in the newspaper.
Do you know?
I know it's been in the paper.
Do you know?
You know what, I'm not involved.
You know.
So there was a
this is my
motion on the
opportunity.
table.
Virginia, Rob, excuse me, no personal, can you finish your comments?
I'm trying to, she made an accusation.
I know you are.
That is not, that is not
Fair
proper.
I
I have not.
So I want you to take.
I have not.
Take the next couple of minutes and say your piece.
Yes, thank you. I'm not yelling and screaming, but She's over here accusing me of filing papers relative.
I never
for
said
doing- What did you say?
If you're gonna have it back, you're not gonna finish your comment.
I'm gonna, he's putting words in my mouth, but that's par for the course.
You got another minute, Rob, please, if you got anything else to say, you gotta move on. You got some to finish your comment, or are you done? Yes or no, I really,
What is she actually accusing me of? What are you accusing me of, Virginia?
Rob, it's been in the paper that you intend to recall the mayor. That's what I'm accusing, that your
So
intention
you're
is that.
using a
No.
media,
Okay, you know what?
you're using a media source
No, I'm not.
to say that.
I've gotten the emails, it's in the mayor's newsletter, so that's my whole basis of right now, when we're trying to rebuild relationships, that let's cool it and have someone who's not gonna be viewed as hostile to the relationship to be the liaison to this city.
okay.
And so there is a motion and a second.
So there's a motion, a second, we'll cease the conversation, and we're just gonna finish the, call for the vote.
Director Bernstein?
But let me just raise a point of order, just to be clear. When you say you're calling to the vote, that's requires a vote itself.
correct.
And I don't think you need to do that. It seems like you could just move forward and take the vote, but by calling for the vote, you're requiring an action that's not discussable.
That's why I called for the vote.
Well, you can't call for the vote either. It still has to be voted
I
on.
know, but when you call for the vote, then that needs to be voted on.
I just want,
You wanna play the semantics, fine, okay. You put what I need to say. You tell Michelle what I need to say. Go ahead, so we can
you
get.
just say, I think we're ready to vote, and that's probably good enough.
Do you want to withdraw your
Yes,
request to call the vote?
I will withdraw my request to call for the vote.
And you're now calling for the vote on the assignments as amended.
I made a motion to do
Yes.
that. And the chair is ready for the roll call, right?
Ready for the roll call.
Okay,
Michelle?
yep, with you. Director Bernstein?
I'm going to abstain because of the action that I took withdrawing my name from any board leadership role.
Thank you.
Should I assume that's for the record?
Please.
Yes. Okay, and Director Corrali?
I,
Director Bloom?
Aye.
Director Solano?
I,
And Director Jones?
Aye. So we have, can I say we passed the issue? Okay, we passed, moving on. Item number. Liaison.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's proposed agenda item?
Oh, proposal did not, thank you, Michelle. You ready before the next board meeting? Hearing none,
And then,
then we'll close it out, reports and requests, liaison reports, town and after.
so I listened in, not before I knew my assignment, but I just continued to listen into the town of Atherton reports. Yeah, the kind of two noteworthy things. One is that they have backed away from their plan to do the Selby Road bike lane modifications. And they're now going to look at that as part of a bigger kind of master plan of traffic and bike routes and El Camino Real and other things. So that was something I reported on earlier, that there was a bit of controversy about those bike lanes and whether there's actually adequate room for them. And then the only other thing I would just note is, I think there's a nice sensitivity by the town of Atherton to safety of residents, and with a particular focus to pedestrians and bicyclists. And I can, it's something that comes up at almost every meeting there, and I think that's actually a good thing. Something I've talked to the chief about is the chief potentially attending some of those meetings and just hearing what they're up to on that, and then opining whether whether the fire district itself has any input to some of their thinking on those items. But it's from a safety perspective, it's nice to see that the council focused on that on an ongoing basis. That's my report.
Steven Palato, yeah, hopefully we can get some movement going, on the, Ravenswood industrial area. There are still developers who wants to build over there. And I got a meeting last week, the LDD folk. We're working through, with the city, we have the city planner over there talking about where they are in terms of the infrastructure improvement, like the sewer and the water. They have, I know the city is sitting on quite a chunk of money right now that they want to put some of it towards, some of their share in terms of those developments, so. Stay tuned for that, we see developers, previously in there and still have hope for continuing that to go in the area. Noah Bart?
Robert, just a real quick question for you. The Ravenswood development area, is that, I'm not 100% familiar with it, but I want to make sure I know from the facilities committee perspective. Is that the area over where the task force is? Or is it some other area?
That's the area.
Okay, that general
All the
area.
way down to, Bay Road, all the way to the end.
Okay, so starting kind of at the far end where the task force is going all the way to Bay Road?
To the Bay Road, and it goes all the way, to the north of that, which is another, about 50 acres, maybe 60 acres.
Okay.
There's gonna be a housing development over there, as well as some other industrial, commercial buildings.
Okay, I'll ask you as a follow-up outside of the meeting to just show me on a map. Because I just want to make sure that when we, in facilities, when we're talking about the warehouse property,
Right.
that we understand where it sits relative.
Context.
And I think it's in that zone,
Right,
but not necessarily that property, but that zone.
right, and yeah, it's part of the overall development area.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Another thing, we haven't got to it yet, one of the things I'm hoping that each committee that, when you constitute yourselves for next month, that hopefully you will be able to contact the chairperson and the people in that committee, to kind of get an understanding of what the, agenda items, the last agenda set of items, and hopefully they're in some type of priority. So you can at least start from that point of Gary probably already know the facility.
I'm throwing out everything you ever did in
Yeah.
facilities. We're gonna
Start
start.
already. That's probably.
We voted on things too, so.
That's a good idea.
You're the only one that's done this stuff. You're the only one that's actually.
Gary's done too. He's doing both as well.
I agree with the spirit of your comment, though,
Yeah.
that try to keep some consistency as we go through so we don't put staff on a roller coaster, right? Right.
I think Michelle and Steve appreciate that.
Yes. I agree.
So now Clark,
Dr.
Jeff, do
Bernstein?
you have anything to report on city mental work?
I'm not the reporting person.
For
You
last-
are for until today, so did you go to the meetings with the New York in December?
I'm sorry, no, I didn't do anything,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
so we move on to County of San Mateo, District 84.
Did not meet,
No,
did not meet,
that's me.
did not meet again.
That's
Well,
it.
That's the JPA.
District 3 and 4.
Hmm?
We haven't got to hear about. We're talking about this.
We haven't.
With Virginia was. District.
Was county
Yeah,
liaison.
I'm sorry.
So, I was planning on going to the reorg and the farewell event for supervisors Slocum and Pine, but they got COVID. So I couldn't go, it's literally during that time. But I do want to congratulate Supervisor Spear and Supervisor Gauthier for being, or Gaucher for being the two new members of the Board of Supervisors. And, Supervisor Canica for being the current board president, and also Supervisor Corso for being the vice president of the board. But those are like the major changes, like the reorg and the swearing in of the two new supervisors.
So in the spirit of Robert's comment earlier, I'd like to tap into you on District 3 related issues and tap into Chuck on the Creek related So I understand what the current thinking is.
We talked about this before.
Yeah, I'll do it offline.
Me too, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, basically transitioning to the new liaison.
Right,
Yeah.
because I talked to Lisa, on Monday, she's at the university and she don't have a clue.
Yeah, so yeah, happy to transition
Yeah.
to,
Okay. Also, Timothy, pre-hospital emergency medical joint powers authority.
We did not.
Did not.
Robert,
Yes.
can I just make a comment about liaison reports in general real quick?
Sure.
I brought this up before, but for some reason, people ignored it, and I just want to be clear that the Creek JPA is listed on the thing we just voted on, as listed as a liaison. That Gary is gonna be the liaison to it, but it's not listed as one of the liaison reports. And somebody explained that that was intentional, but I never understood the explanation, and I just want to point out again, it seems to me if you're gonna bother going to the meeting, that you ought to have an opportunity to speak about what's going on there, otherwise it doesn't make sense.
Good point. We're gonna go next one.
Yeah, that's fine.
Ad hoc committee report. There was an ad hoc committee and I think Virginia and Gary was on that ad hoc committee. We are no longer at the end of this month going to have the ad hoc committee for emergency prep that's been transitioned into the e-prep committee. We
I'm ready to get that.
We have that ready by next month, but Chief, is there anything you wanna?
I will have available for the new standing committee, the draft report that will be modified. The EPRA, that the ad hoc committee has been working on,
Right,
with some modifications. It's still, I'll get it to you in advance so you can read it and give us.
I'd like to
some
look it over
feedback.
before our meeting.
Sure.
got it.
Thank you.
Okay. And also keep planning we were not gonna care for the dispatch service at this point in time until some further date.
Yeah. When there's hopefully when there's a need, if there's a need, we can establish an ad hoc committee for that.
Reports, request of the director.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
it's kind of a report, and it just was a comment on, we were having a conversation previously about the fires down in LA County and so forth. And as the chief, I think, pointed out, there's all sorts of repercussions and recriminations and so forth going on about what happened. But this is something that's been a concern of mine for many years. It remains a concern. Unfortunately, the board has not taken it on as a priority at all, but the reports that are coming out now indicated that in Altadena, the fire was very fast moving and people were killed because they received no warning whatsoever of the fire. And I'm bringing it up because I think we need some sort of an alerting system. I think we need it sooner rather than later. And there will come a time where I hope not, but there will come a time, I'm concerned, that where we're going to say we should have had an alerting system for our communities. And again, we had it almost there about 3 or 4 years ago, and then we've done nothing since then on it. We spent about roughly $200,000 on the first alerting system, and we're gonna test how far it reached and all those kinds of things. And as far as I know, we have never done that. We could do it, and I think it's important that we do it.
I concur with you, Chuck. I think that we had more like 5 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, that we had, that we were right before COVID. There was a alerting system over at Station 2 that was there. The shake alert was also at that point there, as well as up in
Yeah. we
Yeah, in
had-
Atherton.
where-
We did a test there.
Yeah, where the water.
Water plant off Welsh.
Yes,
Well,
we
yeah.
did, we did a test there.
We did a test there, and the reason they didn't move forward with these also is one of the directors decided they didn't want it to happen, and so it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
We didn't have the votes for it. So the infrastructure is still there for that kind of clear. I think now is the time, especially with the height of words of Southern California, and as well as far up north, to kind of really look at, what's already existing and what we can do for the areas. I know it's gonna take some coordination with cities, any kind of alerting system to take place. Because I think East Palo Alto is prime, and I think Menlo Park, I'm not sure about Aspen, but I think those three jurisdictions have to
Can I make a suggestion? You may, Robert, want to defer discussion on it at the board meeting, A, because it's not an agenda, but B, because part of the ad hoc prep work we were doing gets into alerting and communication and the direction for that. So that's something that I think that the ad hoc, the new E-Prep committee pick up that work, the chief does a staff report and decide where they want to take that relative to recommendations of the full board.
So I guess the recommendation pass that information on
Chief's got it.
to chief to the E-Prep or work.
You know, we had it after the policy discussion we had here, we had a subsequent discussion to redirect the general direction of it, and it was in the chief's hands with, along with his staff. So I would just recommend that the E-Prep committee pick that work up.
I think it's very idea.
I was gonna see if we wanted to put it on a future agenda, but if the E-Prep committee's gonna pick it up, and we can play, and y'all can move forward with that.
Right, I think that's where it needs to settle, and then whatever comes out of that.
Perfect.
Robert will fix it.
Yep.
We'll fix it.
Rob said we'll fix it. Good. All right, any other reports from the director?
Yes, I'd like to.
Yes, Rob.
Thank you. My colleague here, addressing that I'm involved in a recall mission, to recall the mayor of Menlo Park. During all my dealings with Menlo Park, I represented myself as a city of Menlo Park, not a fire district member. The illustrious mayor identified me as a fire district member in a newsletter that he prepared. I have never used my position during the process of going through Menlo Park, planning through the housing and through the council itself involving the Sheridan Drive project. There has been no formal process involving the recall of the mayor. You're quoting a media source? Well, there you go. And I just have my fellow board members just stay tuned. Thank you.
Is there anything new you want to add?
Yeah. Yeah, so because of the LA fires, I've heard from various residents, including the resident that Gary's been interacting with about, the canopy in Atherton or the water pressure or water supply in our fire district. So, I talked to the chief about that, and, so that was one of the reasons that we talked about, having a little brochure or pamphlet, kind of that we discussed in his chief report. So I just wanted to put that out there, that this LA wildfire situation, which is horrific, has made our residents aware of, the vulnerable, make them afraid of the vulnerabilities that our communities might have. So I just wanted to put that out there, that I'm also glad that you've addressed that, and Gary did a great job in interacting with the Atherton council member who brought this forward along with the resident of Atherton. I do want to just add one thing regarding the mayor's recall. I'm not going to accuse anyone of anything, but I have also received communications from people who think that the fire board and the fire district are supportive of this potential recall. So I'm not accusing anyone, I'm just letting you know that that's what that I've received those messages. So I am done with my report.
I need to make a request. I need to make a request. I need to make. I'd like a transcript of this proceeding today.
Videotape.
A transcript of the proceeding.
If the board wants a transcript, they would have to vote on that, but the video is a video recording transcript.
That's my request.
Okay, thank you. I'll note that.
Please note, thank you.
All right, you have something?
Yeah, the only other thing I would add is just that, kind of carry on Virginia's comment about community members talking about the fires is, I think that presents us a great opportunity to do some additional education. And I think the severity of that fire and the visibility to it, to the community members also creates an opportunity for the city councils to implement some new rules and put in some clarity as to, you know, fire prevention changes to building codes and such. I think we need to be careful as a board, just that we don't step on, as we educate and as we make recommendations, that we not step on the toes of the city's role in running their planning departments, having their arborists, you know, in their policies for landscaping, all those things. So I think it'll be very important. I think we should be opportunistic by what it presented, make very solid recommendations to the city.
I concur with that. Yes, Joe.
I just have a quick question to the chief about that. You know, up in the mountains, they have the defensible space rules and so forth. Do those apply to the flatlands here, or they're not applicable?
That's a really great question and really relevant right now. So they may end up to stay. I want to get into a lot of details because it wasn't agendized, but they may in the future, right? The
So
state
stop.
the state's about to issue some fire hazard severity zones, but they generally don't.
So Chuck, are you asking for a report or further information from the chief down the road, or is this comment?
Well, that would be great. I just was trying to follow up on what Gary said, and I wasn't sure what rules apply or don't apply.
All right, and since I'm not moving on to item number 12, I think we exhausted the board. Since this is my first day, I will defer back to Gary for to close out the president report for 2024.
Yeah, I kind of did that last meeting. You know, just an observation for tonight's meeting is I kind of established a policy last year that we call for, have the motion put on the table, then have the discussion, so that we'd avoid the double discussion. I'd be interested to know as president for this year, how you want to do that, whether you want to have generalized discussion and move it to motion, or do a motion. I kind of held back on the early motion approach, not knowing what your desires are on that. But I closed out my report at the last meeting.
Yeah, President, I think it's important to bring order to the meeting. I know we all are hot and sweaty about the issues that we bring up. Very passionate about it, but in order to continue to bring order to the structure, I think the motion works. And then we have the discussions that we can at least move the agenda item and hopefully get out of here before 9 o'clock on the meetings. So yes, that's my close.
Okay.
That's my preference, so.
Yeah, that's what I tried to do last year as president. And the advantage for the other board members on it is that you end up debating or hearing commentary once instead of doing it twice. Where if you have a big debate, then you have the motion, then you have another big debate after the motion. It's just put the motion on the table, have the debate, and then vote.
I agree.
Thank you for that clarification.
Can I make a comment?
On my president report? Okay.
I want to make a comment, and that is that, I actually think the discussion can help formulate the motion. So I think it's better to have the discussion first and then make a motion, because you might make a different motion. Anyway, that's just.
Okay. All right, thanks, Joe, for the comment. I think we at the end of our, everything, so I'll get Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
We don't need motion, right?
No.
Yeah.
26.
Which,
I mean, I think we're still very here.
wait,